I love my family and I know they love me. But when I'm around them, I feel that they are sucking the energy out of me. I try to stay upbeat and lighthearted, but it's a struggle as they're so critical and judgmental. What advice can you give? Just because we love people doesn't necessarily mean that it's always the right thing to do to be in their presence, or to be in their presence in a specific way. Let's imagine for a moment that you have a brother or a child who has autism or is somewhere on the autism spectrum. Now, when people have autism or are on the autism spectrum, what you see frequently is that there will be movements that are not necessarily emotionally driven. So they will sometimes maybe hit their head against a wall, hit their head against the ground, bang their hands against the ground or the wall, hit people. In most cases, not actually coming out of anger, but just coming out of different aspects of that illness. Without going into those details, what we look at is a child who is harming himself or herself or harming people around him. Now let's say you go up to this brother or child and with all the love in your heart, you put a hand on their shoulder. And he turns around and he goes, bam, and hits you in the face. Now, you're not going to hate him. You're not going to feel like a victim. You're not going to wonder, how can you be hurting me so much? You understand this child is sick. If it's a family member, you love them anyway, of course. Our love doesn't dissipate because someone has a particular disorder or a particular illness or a particular challenge. And yet, what we know is going up, particularly from behind, and putting my hand on his shoulder, even though I do it with all the love in my heart, is an act that leads to me getting punched in the nose. Therefore, I don't do that anymore. Doesn't mean I love him any less. Doesn't mean I feel like the victim. But it means that due to the challenges that he is going through, his reaction to me touching him on the shoulder with love is to spin around and hit me. Many of them are touch aversive. They don't want to be touched. Doesn't mean we love them any less. Doesn't mean they love us any less. Just means that they're not able to give and receive love in exactly the same way that we are used to. Now, I bring this up with other family members because it's easy for us to know that when we have a family member who is obviously diagnosably ill or suffering from a diagnosable ailment. It's harder with the rest of the time. But when people are negative, when people are constantly judgmental, when people have glasses on that sees the world as out to get them or out to get others, it's also a state of dis-ease. And when people hurt us, what we have to remember is we only can share that which we have. These air conditionings can only give cold air. Summer days, it's great, it feels wonderful. Winter days, it gives us pneumonia. It's not the air conditioner's fault, though. That's all it has. That's all it can give. We don't hate the air conditioner. We don't have to go into therapy because we stood too close and we ended up getting pneumonia and oh my God, that air conditioner had it in for me. But what we know is, in the wintertime, we don't stand that close. It's not good for our health. And when we have people around us who are causing pain, exuding coldness, literally, emotionally, it's because that's all they have, like the air conditioner. And so what we know is, we don't love them any less. We don't have to go into therapy to feel like the victim of their cold vibrations. And yet, we don't want to stand too close when we are susceptible. At a time in our life when we're in a particular mood, when we're going through difficulty, when we're stressed, when we need love, there's some times that we can handle people's negativity. There's some times we can handle people's criticism. We're feeling very grounded, very anchored, very strong inside. There's other times we can't handle it so well. And at those times, we need to be sure to take care of ourselves. And it doesn't mean we love them any less. Doesn't mean that we, go out and try to hunt down and kill all the air conditioners or start a petition against air conditioners. But it just means that we know at this moment, my immune system's a little low. I shouldn't stand so close. And when people are critical and hurtful and judgmental and mean, just because they're our family, just because we love them, just because they love us, doesn't mean that we have to stand close enough that their negativity hurts us. In an ideal world, in an ideal spiritual practice, we stay so grounded, so anchored, so connected that it doesn't matter. Our metaphoric immune systems are so robust that we can stand in front of the air conditioner in the middle of freezing January and still not get sick. Like the Buddhist monks who sit in the snow and dry, cold towels on their shoulders because they've learned how to mobilize the inner energy so much that sitting naked in the snow, they can generate so much inner energy that they actually can dry wet towels. Most of us aren't there. If you place most of us naked in the snow with a cold, wet towel on our shoulders, we're going to have pneumonia long before we're able to dry that towel. But it's important to hold out, to remember what the goal is. The goal is to get there. Physically, emotionally, spiritually. But also to be honest with where we are on the path. And at times when we're robust, great, no problem. But at times when we're not feeling so robust, it's important to protect ourselves. And if our family members or friends or colleagues or neighbors are constantly criticizing us and judging us and being negative, it's important to protect ourselves from that. Whether literally creating physical distance, or whether just creating an emotional sort of safe inner area. The equivalent of a wetsuit. If you're going to go in the ocean and it's cold and you put on a wetsuit, well, you're still in the ocean, but you don't catch cold. And there's all sorts of beautiful ways meditatively with inner rituals to just protect ourselves with an emotional and spiritual wetsuit to enable us to move through the world. Because the answer is not how many situations can I cut myself out of. I'm in peace, I'm in bliss. Don't come too close to me. I'm able to be in peace and bliss only only if no one gets too close, only if no one asks anything of me, only if no one pushes my buttons. Well, that's fine temporarily. You know, you plant a young sapling, and while the tree is growing, it needs a tree guard around it to protect it from little animals as well as big animals. But ultimately, the goal is the tree should grow, the tree should become strong, the roots should be so deep in the ground that, yeah, even an elephant comes and starts, hitting the tree, and it's able to stay firm. So this is what our spiritual practice does, and we all go through phases and times when we feel very much like the sapling that needs the tree guard, and we need to be in a safe, protected place. But the goal ultimately is to be strong enough and grounded enough and centered enough that we can be anywhere, be in any situation, because as we all know, wherever you are, there's stress. Wherever you are, there's negativity. Wherever you are, there are people who are critical. And if we have to go through our lives pushing them away, then pushing them away, then pushing them away, then running from here, running from there, we find ourselves just running. And as Pujya Swamiji always says, wherever you go, there you are. You take yourself with you. So how can we get ourselves so positive that whatever the energy is around us, we're able to diffuse that? Yeah, people give us energy, but we also exude energy. Yeah, the AC is blowing cold air, but I'm blowing so much hot air that I'm going to give that air conditioner a run for its money. That's ultimately the goal. But in the meantime, yeah, sometimes we need to just take care of ourselves and protect ourselves from whatever dis-ease people around us are going through. That's why ashrams were created.